Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. So today we're going to start getting into specific areas where entitlement is affecting society. Truth be told, I believe it affects all aspects of society, so really it's everything. But I want to highlight just a couple different areas personally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a couple of different anecdotes that I have. Today's or this week, I believe it's all going to be same part of the same week. This week is all going to be about pedestrians, cyclists, drivers. So in this video I'm going to share anecdotes about each that I have seen personally, and I am also then going to talk in the next video about, is there anything I think that can be done to specifically fix entitlement when it comes to specifically pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. For this video, I'm going to give you, I've thought about in my head, especially over the last couple months, about all the different things I've seen while out and about, and I've decided which of those seem to be the most entitled, and I'm going to tell you a story about each. Now, we all have stories like these, so I get that. But I'm going to start with pedestrians. So I was waiting to cross a light. It was a 4-lane road, and there was a woman opposite of the street, opposite on the side of the same side of the. How do I explain it? Okay, the intersection's like this. I'm here, the woman's here, and we're both trying to cross the same way. I've pressed the button. I know she's pressed the button as well. This light takes a little while to change. The one intersection is a fairly busy road, and the other goes into a subdivision, so it can take a little bit of time. For whatever reason, this woman decided, you know what, this light is taking too much time, I'm just going to cross. The problem I had was that the woman had a baby in a stroller and was crossing the street as cars were coming with her child, potentially endangering that child. Now, another thing about this intersection is that there's a curve on one of the roads curves a bit, and so it's actually harder to see what's coming down that curve. And they were the ones that had a green light, so cars would whip and you wouldn't see them until it's almost too late. So she gets to the first half of the intersection, and again the light is still red for her, she's not supposed to be crossing, and cars start coming. Instead of potentially waiting in the middle where the median is, although that also would be dangerous, probably smarter than what she did, she just decided, I'm going to continue and I hope they stop. Thankfully, both the cars did stop. One of them honked at her, and she decided, because she had her child in the stroller. Now, yeah, it's young; it's probably not going to remember any of this, but she decided to wait there and just stand there in their way until the light changed and she legally was allowed to cross, so that it held up those two people. She literally stood in the middle of both lanes and wouldn't let anyone go because the one of them honked at her because she was crossing the road when she shouldn't have been. That's some level of entitlement, in my opinion. First of all, what type of parent are you that you would endanger your child by doing that? First of all. Second of all, what type of person are you that when you're in the wrong and someone says, hey, you shouldn't have done that, you're like, well, you know what, F you, and I'm just gonna sit here and you're gonna be screwed. Entitlement. Now, I have two stories actually about cyclists. One involves drivers and one involves pedestrians, me walking specifically, actually. And I do want to say a little bit of background. For my city, most of the bike lanes are connected to the road. So you'll have a bike lane, a car lane, and there's no division between, there's a white line. That's it. There's no barrier between the cars and the bikes. And I have seen a lot of cars just maybe because they're paying too much attention to the cyclist, for instance, start looking over where the cyclist is, and automatically your car goes where you look. Your hands want to turn that way, and the car starts veering into the cyclist. I've seen that. I've seen cars turning right, not even checking for if they're cyclists, and cyclists getting wiped out. I've seen horrible things that happen to cyclists on those bike paths. So I can understand it, and I have a person I know here in the city that I live in, and they have told me this, and I totally get it. They're like, so if you're under 18 or you're a senior, I don't know if that's 60 or 65, I'm not entirely sure which age it is, you are allowed to cycle on the sidewalks. It's perfectly legal for you. Anyone between those two ages is supposed to either bike in the road or on the bike lanes. So he puts a very good thing. He's like, I don't always get a ticket, but if I do, it just means I had to pay to ride my bike on the sidewalk because I'm not riding it on the road. So I get that. So a lot of people in my city, and I think a lot in a lot of cities these days, a lot of cyclists will just bike on the sidewalk, and okay, fair. I do believe, though, if you are a cyclist and that's the case and you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk, that means you are the one who is supposed to yield for anyone else. And that leads to my first story. So there were two cyclists coming towards me, taking up the entire sidewalk. Now, normally whenever this has happened before, not with these cyclists specifically, but whenever this has happened before, one of the cyclists will go in front of the other will move over, and the sidewalk's wide enough that I can walk next to them and they can bike by me, and we're all good, and there's never been an issue. Well, the person who was in my path decided no, he should move out of the way for me because I guess because he's special and he's entitled. I may be a little entitled too. I'm not gonna say I'm not entitled, but I think, if there's enough room and people can move over, they should move over. And so why should I have to move off the sidewalk for you if you could just move over and then there'd be room for all of us? Now, that being said, I will move on to the grass, no problem. If there's a woman with a stroller, or a man with a stroller for that matter, if there's someone in a wheelchair, because the wheelchair is taking up most of the sidewalk, I have no problem moving over for that. But when there's enough room for both people to be, or for everyone to be on the sidewalk, why do I have to move over? So he thought I was going to move, and I definitely wasn't going to move. I get it. Part of this is on me. I'm not trying to say I'm holier than thou or anything else. But so he realized last minute, oh, he's not moving. So he had to hit his brakes and he had to go over. And of course, there was a bit of interaction between him and I won't really repeat it. He said a couple interesting, creative, colorful words, and I basically called him a moron. But what's interesting is he knew he was in the wrong, and yet he still had to call me those words, right? Because I'm like, oh, so now I'm a fairly good judge of how old someone is. I just always have been, so I figured that they weren't under 18. These guys looked like they were in their late 20s. And it turns out they probably were. Because I'm like, oh, how old are you? And he's like, that's none of your business. And I'm like, it sure is, because if you're not under 18, you're supposed to be there. And that's where the conversation ended. So, yeah, entitlement. I would have had no issue with them if he had just moved over. I've seen it 1,000 times done exactly that way, but this guy just decided, you know what? He should move for me instead of the other way around. So there you go. And now I have a very crazy entitlement from a cyclist to drivers. So, it's late at night. The area is lit up, but not very well. And actually, a tree has basically grown over it, so it's blocking a lot of the light in that area. So again, we're at an intersection. It's a 4-lane. I say that wrong. It's 2 lanes one way and 4 lanes the other. And this bicyclist was coming from the 2 lane and crossing the 4 lanes. This bicyclist had no reflective gear on their bike, no lights, no nothing. I barely saw the cyclist until he got to the intersection, and I couldn't imagine a car being able to see him at all. So in that darkness, with a red light for him, he decides, I'm just going to go through. And he checked one way. I don't even know if he checked the other, because a car had to slam on his brakes for this guy, and it was this close. He saw him late, and thankfully he was able to slam on his brakes and avoid hitting this guy. And then again, because entitlement, the cyclists have to give the driver the finger, because it's the driver's fault that you were crossing illegally. And not only that, but crossing dark at night. As a cyclist, how hard is it to get reflective gear? How hard is it to get a light on your bicycle? I get it. Battery operated lights, maybe your batteries go out. That's an excuse for one night, but don't this guy didn't even have lights on his bike that his batteries could have been drained. He had no reflectives on his bike whatsoever. Sorry, I said something that YouTube was probably no, that's not, you can't say that on here. So I just had to cut that little bit out. But yeah, if you're doing that dangerous across, especially illegally, with cars coming, a car versus a bike, who is going to win? Not only that, but of course no one that cycles anymore, or very few people that cycle, wear a helmet. By the way, a helmet is the one thing that's going to protect your life as a cyclist, in case something horrible and God forbid happens. Wouldn't wish it on anyone that anything happens, but that helmet might be the difference between you being a vegetable and you being alive. And yet people just won't wear them because, they're not cool, or because, I'm fine, I don't need it, I'll be okay. Anyone can fall off a bike. Yeah. So that was interesting. Of course, the cyclist never felt it was his fault at all. Why would he? That's entitlement for you. And lastly, I'll do an extra story for you. One is about people on the bus. Now I don't actually own a car. A lot of where I have to go daily is well within walking distance. I can buy the stuff, carry it home. I'm good with that. Every now and again things are a little further out, so I do have to bus for them, and the bus is it's interesting. There are some very interesting people on the buses. I think that's true for every city. This one lady had just finished her grocery shopping, and she had 6 full bags of groceries that she had on a seat next to her. And you know what? Fair enough. I would probably do that too. I wouldn't want my groceries near the floor of the bus. That has to be one of the most disgusting, dirty places ever. So I wouldn't want to put them on the ground either. The problem was the only spot open at the time for her was right at the front of the bus, which is the handicap accessible area. So a couple stops later, someone on a wheelchair gets on. Now there was already one person in a wheelchair on the other side, so this person needed to move with her groceries in order for this guy to be safely able to, because they have the special things that they latch onto the wheelchair so that it won't move, so that it's safe for the wheelchair rider. she refused to move. She refused to move for a good 5 minutes, claiming, well, it's first come, first serve, and she shouldn't have to give up her spot because she got here first. Yes, technically the bus is first come, first serve. She is right about that. However, if it's someone who's handicapped and the only safe place for them to ride is there, and there are other seats available, you should have to just move. Just be a decent human being and move. How hard is that? Well, the reason she didn't want to move was because there weren't anywhere on the bus where there were 2 seats available. Because not only did she need a seat for her groceries, she needed to sit as well. She wasn't going to stand on a bus if there were spots. She even said so herself. I don't get it. Like, she could have very easily moved, put her groceries on one of the seats that was empty, and stood right next to them. But no, why should she have to do that? Just got little kids screaming in the hallway. If you heard that, that's what that noise was. Yeah, so all told, this little incident took a good 10 minutes. Our bus was about 10 minutes late that day, just because one person decided, well, I'm not going to move for a handicapped person. Why should I have to? Oh boy. All right, and last, this is the fun one. In my opinion, this is the fun one. So, I have history with this driver. I don't know who he is, but he drives a BMW. You're not a good. You're adding to the negative stereotype of that vehicle, my dude. I don't, like I said, I don't know who he really is. This individual, this guy, thinks that he should be able to go right through stop signs without having to stop. No matter what is in the intersection, no matter who has right of way, no matter if there are people crossing, he has right of way in his mind. That's what he believes. I have literally had to jump out of his way in order to not get hit by his BMW because he didn't stop. If there are people in front of him at a stop sign that are doing the stop properly, he honks at them to hurry them up because he should be able to go right through. I have seen him with children crossing and nearly running children over. He is a horrible driver, and I don't know how the hell this person got a license. I don't regularly drive. I have my license. I don't have a car, but I can drive, and yeah, I don't understand people that think they can just go through a stop sign without even stopping. Like, I somewhat get annoyed even at rolling stops. But this guy doesn't even do a rolling stop. This guy just goes full speed. My turn. Even though it's not his turn. So in that area, there were a lot of complaints to the city that people were going through these stop signs. I wonder why. Now, so they decided, the city that I'm in decided to put more of a police presence in that area to try and catch people. Now, this was Victoria Day long weekend. This was the Monday holiday. I was on a walk. I decided that day I was not going to do anything. I was just going to, do what I wanted that day and to recharge my batteries, because my batteries had been very, very drained the last couple of weeks. So I was like, I'm going to go for a nice walk. So I'm walking in that area, and there's a park just after the stop sign. I'm at the park. I hear him coming. That's the other thing about him. You always know when he's in the area because you can hear his music a mile away. He's got every bass enhancement. I don't know what. I'm not good with that type of technology. But he's got like every bass enhancement. You just hear the boom, 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 well before he gets to you. That's the one warning. You know that he's coming. So this guy goes right through the stop, and lo and behold, there's a cop sitting there. Yes, finally. I'm like, I see it. I see the cop, and I'm like, eh. So I'm at the park. I've got a couple knee issues. My knee's kind of a little sore. I think, you know what? There's a bench right there, and they're just right there. Maybe I'll sit and rest my knee for a little while. Yeah, it had nothing to do with my knee. I was just curious what was going to happen. Now, I didn't hear most of what happened, this is what I actually talked to the cop afterwards, and this is what he told me. So the cop gets to his car and he's banging on his window, and the guy won't even roll the window down. That's a good start to talking to a cop. Now, I don't know about you. I was always told, show respect to cops. I don't think they inherently deserve more respect than anyone else. That's just my personal opinion. But show respect to everyone. So I would show a level of respect to a cop. I would have my window down. I'd have my papers ready. I would have, reason, blah, 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 blah. No, this guy finally, after a couple minutes, rolls his window down just enough that the cop can talk to him. But the cop can't talk to him because his music is still blasting. So the cop tries to talk to him. The cop asks him to turn down the music a couple times. He no, I should be able to listen to my music at whatever volume I want. And this is the type of person we're dealing with. Or the cop was dealing with. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with. So eventually the guy turns his music down. He never turns it off, but he turns it down. The cop asks him, do you know why I pulled you over? He's like, no. The cop explains. He's like, no. And he starts arguing with the cop that he is perfectly allowed to go through a stop sign without stopping. So let's relive this list of what you don't do to a cop. Show respect. Have your window down. Have your papers ready. Don't have music blasting so that you can actually hear what the cop is saying. And don't argue with the cop about the laws of the road. I'm just saying, even if the cop is wrong, don't argue with the cop about the laws of the road. If he's wrong, you go to court, you fight it in court. You're not going to help yourself by arguing with this cop. But this guy has to argue with this cop. Oh, no, it's my right. So the cop is asking, well, what if this happens? Or what if there's a person in the intersection? They have to move for me. I have the right of way. And the cop's like, no, you don't. That's not true. And he's like, yes, I do. And so he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. So why should he have to give the officer his insurance, his registration, all that stuff? So a second cop eventually pulls up because, of course, this guy's being trouble. That other cop comes over. He actually comes up to me. Are you part of this? I'm like, no, I'm just sitting here, officer. Don't mind me. I'm not going to cause any problems for you. He's like, okay, and then it goes over. This guy then, so the original officer goes back to write up whatever ticket it is, not stopping at a stop, and whatever else he was giving him, and comes back with the ticket, and then the threats start flying. I am going to sue you, I'm going to sue the city, I'm going to sue the police force, I'm going to sue the people that made the roads, blah, 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 blah. Like, just sue, he's going to sue everyone. I thought maybe I was going to be sued because I was there. I didn't know. But yeah, so that was an interesting experience. Like I said, I actually went up to the cop afterwards and I was talking to him. Apparently the cops are well aware of this individual. They've dealt with him multiple times. The problem is he has money and he just doesn't give a fuck. So he's just going to keep doing it. And he's gotten like a ridiculous amount of tickets, and he just keeps doing it because that's what he thinks he can do. Every time he's told, no, this is illegal, you can't do this, and he just keeps going. So unfortunately, people like that are just going to keep doing what they're going to do. Yeah, not good for that stereotype of BMW drivers. Not good at all. But yep, those are my stories of entitlement when it comes to pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers, and the bonus on the bus story. I hope you enjoyed that. In my next video, I am going to be talking about what we could do maybe to help improve entitlement when it comes to that area specifically of entitled pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. So stay tuned for that video. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.